This is Our View, the television voice of Washington's working families, brought to you by the proud members of the Washington Federation of State Employees. A new collective bargaining agreement for state employees is now in the hands of the Washington State Legislature. It's awaiting their vote. After years of pay reductions and reduced benefits, the crisis this budget addresses is recruitment and retention. That is, getting and keeping the quality people who will deliver quality state services.
Every time someone leaves with 20 years, in 10, people aren't staying. And that costs you a lot in the long run. There's simply no replacement for experience. And when you lose your experienced workers, you're losing more than just a worker who comes in and does a job. Everything they know goes with them. Even if they're training the new people, it's simply ask anybody who's a sports fan. It's the same in anything. Where you don't have experience, you're not going to have as much success.
We have fallen behind in our wages, and so it's getting harder and harder to be able to pay rent, to own a house, to put food on our table, and send our kids to school.
Most social workers now have a master's degree, and they're leaving right after they come back from training or a month or two into service because they're getting better paying jobs out in the private sector.
We're losing good employees because there is no funding for them, no reason for them to stay. They came to the state employment wanting to help people, our vulnerable population, and that's who we serve. But with the fact that there has been no raises, there are people leaving constantly.
I work with elderly folks, and in our agency they're leaving to go work for Molina and Regents to do kind of the same job that we do, case management, but they're getting paid about 20% more than we get paid right out the door. So their starting wage is 20% more than we get paid.
You have the Hanford site, you have the contractors out there and the federal employees, which make quite a bit more than we do, sometimes $10,000 to $20,000 more. And it's difficult to keep employees, it's difficult to keep members. The members that we have out there are the state's voice when it comes to cleanup out at Hanford. And if we can't keep people that understand Hanford, that have worked out there for some time, it's going to be hard for us to speak up for the state on cleanup issues when it comes to cleanup out there.
Just to give the workers a decent level of pay would be something that I'm sure would help in retaining the workers, and that's what we need. We need to retain workers instead of having them continue to revolve through a revolving door, get trained for 6 months to a year, and leave.
I'm a social worker. I didn't get into this business for the money, and I'm a new homeowner. So I am trying to survive, and I know 99% of my colleagues are just trying to survive. And this 2% is not a lot, but it makes a big difference into our everyday lives, into our bills, into our sustainability as a middle class.
The legislature also has to deal with state employee pension programs. That's a task made easier by a pension plan that is overseen by a committee that includes the Vice President of the Federation. Now, that committee directs the management of the funds so that a majority of the funds paid to retirees is from dividends rather than tax dollars.
One of the challenges we're having right now as state employees is attracting and keeping good employees. And it's important to have a well-run retirement system in order to keep that talent. And it's important we maintain the pensions that we have. And one of the reasons the pension works really well in Washington is that we have a very low cost for our pension. We have good oversight of our pension funds, which by having lower cost, our returns are higher. We get in the top decile of returns in the nation for our fund. And one of the things that most people don't know is over 70% of the money that retirees get is in fact investment returns, not money that the state or the member has put in. So it is a very It's a very good benefit, and a lot of the money that retirees get is spent in the state of Washington, which then further helps our economy. So one of the reasons that a public pension is a really good investment is, one, that they drive the costs down. In a 401k, often the costs are much higher in the investments, and you're taking a group of investment professionals whose number one priority is to get a return for retirees. If you're invested in a 401k, there can be different motivations for the investments. So the pension, one, is something that employees pay into during their career. It is part of one of the deductions that comes out of their check, as well as partially provided by the government. But it is, for most state employees, they do not get a large pension, but it is something that helps give them a stable income in their retirement.
Here's the rule of political participation in America. Labor unions give to Democrats, business gives to Republicans. Not so. Many major business leaders support Democrats, and according to former Washington State GOP Chairman Chris Vance, many Republican candidates are supported by labor.
I think that people think that unions give to Democrats, period. And it's never been true. I mean, I was elected to the House in 1990 and 1992. That's a long time ago now. I'm getting old. But even back then, the Federation of State Employees, the WEA, public school employees, other unions endorsed my campaign, gave me money. So it's always been your approach and other organizations' approach. Unfortunately, the message hasn't gotten out to the general public. And I think it should, because these cartoon caricatures of different actors in our political system are dangerous. It leads to people not trusting the system and having incorrect views about how the system works. And it just so happens that several of my clients have been unions. It's very interesting to see from that point of view how so many members of unions view the world, and how often there's such injustice is maybe a very strong word, but some of the things that happened at Harborview were frankly shocking. I love the University of Washington, but the way they were treating call center workers at Harborview was frankly amazing, just blatantly disregarding the law. And they eventually got called on it by PERC and others. And I was in meetings with people there who were just shattered in tears at how they were being treated in their workplace. I can tell you, my corrections officers, I mean, wow, I mean, what kind of a job those folks have to do, to deal with people who are violent, people who are mentally ill, and they believe that, the jail is perpetually understaffed, that they're asked to deal with inmates who are mentally ill but are in the general population. So Americans who work on the front lines of providing public services often do incredibly difficult jobs for much less compensation for people who work in the public sector. And so I get it. I mean, people who work on the front lines out there are heroes, and they need the representation and the advocacy they get from being a member of a union. Again, people have this cartoonish view of how politics works, that it's all about money, that it's all about self-interest. Well, I'm not naive. Of course people care about that. And of course people want, to make a good living. But I'll tell you, my jail guard clients, they get involved in issues that have nothing to do with money. They're just offended when, bad guys are let out of jail early. And the workers at Harborview, of course they wanted to make a living wage, but they were passionately committed to the mission of serving the unique populations that Harborview serves. And they cared about that more than they cared about their own salary. They want to be able to serve those patients. Human beings are not all about money. Some people like to think they are, but people, especially people who work in the public sector, they choose to work in the public sector because they care about certain things. Teachers want to be teachers because they care about kids. Cops want to be cops because they care about justice. And those people who worked at Harborview, they loved that Harborview was a special place that serves special populations, and that's what motivated them.
State workers at the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions regulate a variety of state-chartered financial services. Those employees also provide consumer and fraud protection. The department, working with KCTS Channel 9 in Seattle, produced a series of educational features to educate us in taking care of our own money. This month's feature is How Much is Enough for Your Retirement?
We all know we should be saving up for retirement and that it's never too early or too late to start. But how much should you save? Some experts recommend saving at least 15% of your pre-tax earnings every year, preferably beginning in your 20s. The later you start, the more you should save. Every 10 years, do a reality check. First, add up all your savings, including 401ks and IRAs. Check with Social Security on your retirement payout. Add in any other investments, and that's your retirement income. Then consider when you'd like to retire. How much of your savings to withdraw each year will depend on how many years you need the money to last. Now try to figure out what you'll spend in retirement. As an estimate, some experts say 75 to 80% of your final pay. Compare your retirement expenses with your income. If they're roughly even, congratulations, you're on target. If not, adjust. Bump up how much you save or count on working longer. Consider consulting a financial professional for help developing a plan that matches your personal circumstances. Just remember, what you don't spend now will add up to a bigger retirement paycheck.
Support comes from the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions, providing information to build a sound financial future. More at dfi.wa.
This has been Our View, brought to you by the members of the Washington Federation of State Employees. We remind you, when you accept a paycheck for your hard work, you don't give up your rights. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month.